Look at this lag. This is what I'm talking about when I say how bad the lag is in this game. And remember, this is sped up like 2 times, so like this is horrible. This is like even longer than it appears. And at this point, you don't know whether you have to close the game, whether you stay in. You have no idea what's happening. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we do upload Pokemon Go content related to PvP, so please consider subscribing to the channel if that is of interest to you. And if you're a returning subscriber like Field Marshall, thank you for the support. In today's video, we are taking a look at some more battles featuring the double ice strategy, and it has still been working pretty well for me. I have made the leaderboard sitting right around number 100 right now. I believe 106 on the leaderboard. It's hard to rank up because you pretty much have to go 4-1 or 5-0 to gain points. You're not gaining anything for 3-2, and you're losing some pretty big points for 2-3 or worse. It's hard to rank up, but I have been more or less keeping steady with this team, but a lot of people are starting to really hard counter it, and a lot of people do know my team now, so there are times where I'm just getting outplayed or somebody will come in and just completely hard counter me. So I am switching up my team a little bit to keep opponents guessing, sometimes in a couple of sets, but for the most part still running double ice, and it is still performing. So we're going to take a look at some battles that I picked out for this video, so let's get into the first one right now. Okay, so we're headed into the first matchup here against 619er SD, and we got a Melmetal lead to start things off. So obviously Melmetal is the worst lead for this team, and typically the way I play it out is I just let the Articuno go down. Best case scenario, you land 2 Icy wins, but there have been a couple of times where I guess it's lag related, or maybe it is IV dependent for a breakpoint, but I will get farmed down after throwing only 1 Icy win. Pretty sure it's a result of lag, because as you could see here, I should comfortably get to the second Icy win if they choose not to throw the rock slide. So we get to the second Icy win here. Opponent is obviously going to farm me down at this point. You can see we do get the Melmetal down into past 50% health, which is pretty good. Switching to Giratina, they switch out into a Suicune, and Suicune is going to be running Ice Beam, and then it could be random Hydro Pump, Bubble Beam, but I know Ice Beam is going to hurt Giratina, and it's the less energy costing move compared to Hydro Pump. So I bring in Lapras here, hoping that they do have Bubble Beam, because then this would be a pretty good situation for me to be in, but they do have Hydro Pump. Obviously Hydro Pump still being resisted, but it does still, for Lapras, bulk standard, chunk away at it. So I'm going to throw the Surf here. We do get the shield, which is pretty amazing here, and it looks like the opponent wants to maintain switch, so they're going to throw another Hydro Pump here. Totally okay with this. I'm going to throw another Surf, and this doesn't look like too bad of a situation for us to be in here. You can see Surf obviously doesn't do much. Opponent switches out into Swampert, and it is going to beat us to a Hydro Cannon, so this should not KO because it's a Hydro Cannon here, so we should survive that. Almost didn't get off that Surf because of the overtap, but we're fortunately able to get off that Surf, so that's some nice damage. Going to switch out into Giratina now and throw the Dragon Claw. And at this point, my thought process is that because the Swampert is so low, there's almost no chance it's going to get to 2 charge moves here, so it's almost always going to throw the Earthquake. So I decided to shield this. It is an Earthquake, and now I have to commit to the straight farm. Now we're able to do it. So either they were going to throw 2 Hydro Cannons there or 1 Earthquake. That was it. So I decided to use the shield. Melmetal comes in, has energy of course because it didn't throw any. So not an optimal position to be in, but I am going to throw the Shadow Sneak here. And at this point, I know I could take 1 more Rock Slide, but I have to commit to the farm down to have enough energy to KO that Suicune. So you could see we just barely don't make it to the farm down. This is critical because now I have to use my last shield, so I'm gonna not be able to knock out this Suicune here. If I could use that shield to save the Ice Beam damage, that'd be fine. Now I'm forced to take a sack onto the Lapras instead. That's my only win condition here, so I throw the Dragon Claw, and the Lapras didn't have any health to catch, unfortunately, so we do end up getting hit by the Ice Beam here. Maybe if I stayed on Giratina I could have farmed down. I don't think that would have been the case, but either way we do end up losing that match. But you can see, even though it was a Melmetal lead, very close, and we put ourselves in a position to win that match. So not impossible to come back from Melmetal leads. Articuno into Giratina here in the next matchup against Rude, and this is obviously probably the best lead you want to see with Articuno. So opponent switches out into Escavalier, and in this situation actually I do not throw the Icy Wind. I'm going to save that for the Giratina, and I'm just going to try to switch in as soon as possible into my own Giratina so that I could throw the Shadow Sneak. And ideally you would like to get to a point where you could farm down the Escavalier while having very minimal health left on the Giratina, but that doesn't always tend to be the case, and it really depends on how quickly you switch in. So here I'm going to throw the Shadow Sneak. Could have probably thrown Dragon Claw, to be honest, in this range. Maybe would have saved energy, but that's totally fine. Giratina is going to come in, I'm going to throw the Dragon Claw here. And this Dragon Claw is gonna throw a couple Dragon Claws here. And this Giratina staying, not using any shield, so I'm gonna just let it farm me down, come back in with the Articuno. They're gonna bring in a Melmetal, so obviously a very tough situation here because this is a double steel team basically with Escavalier and Melmetal. So what do I do here? Well, I know I have to save both of my shields for the Lapras, so I can't shield anything here with Articuno, and I just have to chip away at this Melmetal as much as possible. So I'm gonna throw this second Icy in here and bring in the Lapras. Now, this is fine. I was trying to switch out, but this actually might work better because now the Articuno goes down, totally fine. Melmetal loses that energy. So now I bring in the Lapras, gonna throw this Surf here. And Surf does chunk away quite a bit at Melmetal, so Melmetal's gonna shield that up, and they're going to farm up here. Now they bring in the Giratina, and at this point, I know that Dragon Claw and all of that stuff Giratina's gonna throw at me isn't really much of a threat. So my play here is to basically farm this thing down, have as close to 100 energy as possible so that I could get that first shield on the Melmetal with one Surf and then throw the second Surf to knock out the Melmetal. So that's pretty much the win condition here. Commit to the farm down. We have 2 shields still. Melmetal's gonna be spamming the Rock Slides. We could use both shields here. I know it can't farm me down with Thunder Shock, so it has to throw Rock Slides. So I'm gonna throw the Surf here. And this one's gonna get the first shield, of course. They're gonna throw the Rock Slide now. I'm gonna shield this up. We will be able to throw this next Surf now, and it's going to come down to a race, basically, whether he gets to another Rock Slide or if I'm able to Ice Shard down. I believe it's only like 1 Ice Shard from this point, so we are good. We do take that match against a double steel team, so very hard team to combat in the back, but if you play it correctly and smartly, you could win that match. Testarossa 27 here. Articuno into Obstagoon. A lot of you have actually been asking me how I play the Obstagoon lead match, so here it is. Basically, there are 2 Obstagoons I run into. There are the ones that run Night Slash and like Cross Charm, and then there's some crazy people who are running Night Slash and Hyper Beam, and the ones who are running Hyper Beam will always over farm, and then they'll either throw Hyper Beam right away or they'll bait first with Night Slash. But if you throw the first Icy Wind and they're still over farming, that's going to raise suspicion. They probably have Hyper Beam, so be careful for that. This matchup is very dependent on whether or not the Obstagoon actually gets the boost from the Night Slash. If it does, it becomes very difficult to win. But as you can see here, I'm not shielding because Articuno wins in the 0 shields. Now I chose to shield at this point because he used his own shield, so you have to match the shields if you want to maintain the lead position. So I'm going to throw another Icy in here. He burns another shield, so at this point, because he hasn't gotten any boost, I'm just going to match the shield here, and we should be able to take this lead match. I'm going to get to the Icy Wind, but I'm actually going to choose to farm down there because we're in a position where I could farm down and have the Icy Wind ready to go on the next Pokemon. So that's the ideal situation you want to be in. Now, if the opponent actually comes in and gets a boost on the first Night Slash, it's pretty much game over. There's like nothing you can do at that point because nothing in the back is going to really counter your Obstagoon. So you really have to hope that you do not see a boost, or if you do, it happens to be like on the 3rd Night Slash he throws. Maybe 2nd you get away with, but you're going to go into a shield deficit most likely. So here we got the double ice trap basically on this opponent, got the Lapras into the Giratina. So all I want to do here, throw the Ice Beam, put myself in a position to farm down because obviously they want to have the Registeel for the Giratina at this point. That's their only win condition. They don't have any shields anyway, so they can't really do anything. I farm down, I have the Surfs ready, have to throw the Surf right away, don't want to get hit by a Flash Cannon, have to make sure you use up this energy you have on the Lapras, otherwise it was pointless to farm down. So now the Registeel is going to use energy to get rid of this Lapras, which is very important because Registeel can't bank back-to-back Flash Cannons. So whenever they throw energy, that's really good for you because you know they're going to have to build up again. So bring in the Giratina. At this point, we're in a really good spot because we do have such a massive advantage in terms of health. So Flash Cannon comes through, you can see it does do quite a bit of damage, does a lot more than the Shadow Sneaks are doing to the Registeel, but because of that huge differential in HP, we're going to be able to win this matchup, and at this point Dragon Claw is definitely enough to KO this Registeel. So I'm going to take that matchup here, and the switch timer is coming up as you can see, so GG's there, and we are going to the next match against Gomiyabi, and we're seeing Articuno into a Snorlax, so you could see pretty favorable matchup unless Snorlax is running like Heavy Slam or something, but realistically there's not really any Snorlax that's running Heavy Slam in Open Ultra League, so you could pretty much assume that you're safe in this matchup. Opponent's going to throw a Body Slam. I'm going to actually shield the first one. Not really necessary, but it does get a little risky with lag, and you did see it looked like I lagged a little bit there, so I didn't want to take any chances. So I decided to just shield here, And I realized that at this point, if I do shield the first body slam, I could eventually farm down and have some Icy Winds ready to go, assuming he doesn't use any shields. So that's kind of the game plan I'm taking here. I'm going to throw the Icy Wind, and the opponent's going to switch out into Giratina. Now when he switches out into Giratina into an Articuno, it really catches me off guard as to like why he is doing this, and it makes me think he must have another Pokemon weak to Articuno in the back or something, or he's trying to like bait out my Lapras. I don't know, but I'm going to bring in Lapras here. Obviously an amazing matchup, and because we did throw that Ice Wind, I'm in a totally amazing position here where I could pretty much farm down if I really want to, but at the same time, if he does have something else weak to Ice in the back, I don't want to get my Lapras too low, so I am going to throw the Ice Beam here. And I know that Snorlax with Superpower is a threat, but I do have a shield still, so Snorlax comes in. I'm going to throw the Surf here. If he shields this, it tells me he's probably going to look to throw Superpower, so he does shield. At this point, I'm a little bit worried that he's going to go for Superpower, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to shield this because I don't want my Lapras to go down. It is a Superpower, switches out into Togekiss, and that's why he brought in the Giratina, because obviously Togekiss did not want to see either of those two Ice types. So double Ice Trap, added again. Articuno into Clefable in this matchup. So you could see just about every matchup is pretty good for Articuno except the zero shields, but obviously with Clefable having Meteor Mash, you're never going to go into the zero shields here. So I'm going to go straight for the Icy Wind here. And once you get off this first Icy Wind, the charms are going to be doing less damage, and all you have to do really is shield up this first charge move. As the lag has been really bad lately. Like every single matchup you're seeing lag, and this isn't even like horrible lag here, but I have seen much worse lag. So I build up for the Ice Wind. I'm going to throw this. Almost no chance Clefable shields this, so they do let it go down. And now we do have an Ice Wind ready to go. They bring in Giratina. So again, when I see somebody bringing Giratina into an Ice type, it tells me that they're probably very weak in the back. And because that Clefable's already gone, there's a very good chance that this game is pretty much over, because Lapras in the back is going to handle their third Pokemon, you would assume, unless they're playing some like crazy mind game, Jedi trick thing. So Giratina is going to farm me down. Not the worst case scenario here. And at this point, I decide whether I want to bring in a Lapras or whether I want to bring in Giratina. Now, I bring in Giratina assuming that his third Pokemon is weak to Lapras, so I wanted to save the Lapras for that. But it turns out he actually brings in the Swampert, which is an even better case scenario for me, because technically speaking, I should have brought the Lapras if he had Swampert here, so that I could switch my Giratina into the Swampert after. But this is totally fine. Opponent throws the Earthquake. I'm going to throw two Dragon Claws here. This is going to put the Swampert, pretty much, it's going to knock it out, I assume. This Dragon Claw should be enough to KO. And once that Giratina comes back in, the Double Ice Trap is going to come back into fruition. So I'm letting him throw his energy here, just so that he has less energy, and now I can switch into Lapras. One Ice Beam is going to win the match, so the opponent backs out. Double Ice Trap, back at it again. So, next matchup, Chawa, 92. Articuno into another Giratina. Obviously, a lot of Giratinas. Part of the reason why I'm leading Articuno, there are so many Giratina altered forms in the lead, and you just gotta take advantage of what you're seeing. So opponent brings in Gyarados here. So in this situation, there are two ways to play it. You could actually stay in with the Articuno technically and win that, which might be the better idea, to be honest, as opposed to switching to Lapras. But both of them work fine. In this particular scenario, I did bring in Lapras, but I think staying in with Articuno does make a lot of sense, because part of the reason for that too is that the opponent will probably think that you don't have a second Ice type, and that their Giratina is in the clear after, but then you bring in the Lapras, and boom, double Ice Trap. But I did choose to bring in Lapras here, and I'm going to commit to the farm down here, knowing how the matchup plays out. So we have energy. Now Giratina comes back in, and I throw the Surf here, and this is probably a mistake. I should have just probably went for the Ice Beam, because realistically, he's never going to use a shield because he knows the Articuno is going to come back in. So there's really no point for him to shield Ice Beam there, knowing that. So I'm expecting a switch out, but I see that he's not switching. So at this point, I decide to throw the Icy Wind. And when he decides to shield here, it makes me really wonder, like, why wouldn't he shield the Lapras then? Because I could have easily thrown an Ice Beam there, but now he wants to shield the Icy Wind instead. So I'm kind of confused, and I'm starting to think maybe he does have something in the back that's weak to Articuno as well. So I was a little bit caught off guard here. Still waiting for the switch. It's not happening. So at this point, I decided, you know what? I guess the third thing must be weak to Articuno. So here I'm definitely going to shield, and I assume I would farm down at this point. Switch down into Armored Mewtwo. Okay, so this is not weak to Articuno, and Giratina altered form here is going to just go to work on this Mewtwo. And look at this lag. This is what I'm talking about when I say how bad the lag is in this game. And remember, this is sped up like 2 times, so like this is horrible. This is like even longer than it appears. And at this point, you don't know whether you have to close the game, whether you stay in. You have no idea what's happening. This Armored Mewtwo was in the worst position possible in this game. It was debuffed. It's doing resistant damage to me, and I have a shield advantage. So what happens here? Boom, 1 side strike, a second side strike. This energy coming out. You also notice that the confusion damage, while it did very little, did chunk away at me. Now the switch timer comes up because of that. So he's able to reset his debuff because the lag doesn't take into consideration the switch timer. So the switch timer is still going throughout the lag, and he brings back in the Mewtwo now with the debuffs reset. Fortunately, I'm in such a dominant position that it didn't really play a factor in this match. But imagine if that match played out differently. We would have got screwed out of a win there. So lag's a huge issue. Don't fuckle with me, I believe was the name, Articuno into another Giratina. I'm running into a lot of Giratina leads. And you guys may be saying I'm running into good leads. You guys have to lead what you're seeing the most. So if I'm seeing a lot of Giratinas, I'm going to lead Articuno. That's just how it goes. So opponent brings in Muck here. You could see I'm actually staying in with the Articuno, like I said in the last matchup. So the reason for doing this is because I don't necessarily need the Articuno for that Giratina because I have Lapras already. So I know I could win this match with Articuno here. So I'm just going to throw the Icy Wind at this Muck. And I want to maintain switch advantage here. So the Muck does shield. At this point, I'm going to match shields because I don't want to give up switch. I want to keep the Lapras onto the Giratina. And here comes a Sludge Wave. Okay, so that was a bit of an overkill. Brings in Empoleon. So here, take note of this. This is important because I'm going to Icy Wind this Empoleon. And now I'm counting the waterfalls. And at this point, he has like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so he's at 10 waterfalls right now. So if he has Blizzard, that's going to hurt. But remember, I did debuff him. So with the debuff, Blizzard actually will not KO Giratina in this range, which is absolutely insane. So I'm actually not going to use my shield here. So you're going to see here that he's going to throw the Blizzard. And look at that. It actually didn't KO because of the debuff from the Icy Wind. So at this point, I could actually just go for the Dragon Claw and knock out that Empoleon. So debuffing that Empoleon with the Articuno was definitely worth it for that reason alone. And now I would assume that the Muck is going to come back in, and he switched out into Giratina to catch this Dragon Claw. So that's well played on his part, but of course I do have the Ice types in the back for this Giratina, and I have a shield to boot. So all I gotta do here is tank whatever he throws at me, throw the Ice Beam at this Giratina, and then my Lapras should be in a great position to take out that Muck, pretty much with Ice Shard damage. So Ice Beam KOs the Giratina, Muck comes in. We could pretty much farm down at this point. Opponent's going to throw the move here. Sludge Wave isn't going to KO either, so we actually just let it go through. And we're going to knock out that Muck, take that battle, and let's move into the next matchup here. This is against the Nublar. Anyways, Articuno into Charizard. You could see this is a very bad matchup, but this is very based on shields, and it is bait dependent. So what I'm going to do here is go straight for the Ancient Power onto Charizard. If this goes unshielded, I am in a great position to actually take switch. Goes unshielded. At this point, I have to shield here and commit to a farm down. Now, if the opponent went for Dragon Claw there, he would actually be in a pretty good position, but he did go straight for Blast Burn. So that's the best thing you want to see as the Articuno. You want to call the Blast Burn because Dragon Claw would be really bad. Opponent switches out into Registeel. I am going to debuff it first and then switch into Giratina just to ensure that I make this matchup a bit more favorable for the Giratina here. Remember, we are down a shield, but because that Registeel is debuffed by the Icy Wind, it does help us out a little bit. So I'm going to throw the Shadow Sneak here. I'm going to throw a second Shadow Sneak. And at this point, we have, so let's see, he has Charizard and Registeel. So it's very possible he has something in the back that is weak to ice, something like a Giratina maybe. So we should be in a pretty good position here, but we'll see how this plays out. Opponent does choose to burn a shield, brings in the Charizard, so I'm going to bring in the Articuno here to farm down, get rid of that Charizard, and now I'm forcing the Registeel to throw its energy that is stored onto this Articuno, and I'm okay with letting the Articuno go down, of course, because worst case scenario, if it is something weak to ice, I have Lapras in the back. So Giratina comes back in. I know he's switch locked here, so I'm going to just throw the Shadow Sneak. And let's see what his third Pokemon is going to be. He does get off that Flash Can, which is a little bit unfortunate, but totally fine. I'm going to save my shield for the Lapras. and the opponent actually ends up having a Meganium here. So obviously Articuno have a much better matchup here against Meganium than Lapras does, but I have to be careful here because Lapras doesn't have the best matchup against Meganium at full health. So what I want to do here is actually throw as much Dragon Claw damage as I can so that I could put this Meganium in range. I don't want to switch in Lapras now because if I do, Meganium has so much energy that it should be able to actually beat me. So I'm just trying to bring this Meganium down as much as possible. Opponent actually lets me bring it all the way down into like 15% health, and now I could shield the first Frenzy Plant, take the second Frenzy Plant, it won't KO, and Ice Shard down before it gets to a third Frenzy Plant. So we're going to win with the opponent maintaining the shield there. So GG's, and let's move into the next match against Shapocalypse. And we're seeing an Articuno into Cresselia. So I actually don't see as many Cresselia leads as I once did, but in this matchup, obviously, pretty straightforward. You just go for the shield on the first move. Unless they like throw really early and you're counting, you switch Grass Knot, then you don't want to shield. But most of the time, they go for Moonblast. Sometimes they go for Future Sight on the first one. But as the Cresselia user, it makes most sense to just go straight for the Moonblast in the first one. Hope to get the attack debuff. So I am throwing the Icy Winds here. At this point, the opponent may be throwing Future Sight if they have it. They are. But even when they throw Future Sight here, if they're not going to start shielding, they're going to lose this match regardless. So I'm going to throw Icy Wind. Debuff the Cresselia once more. This is going to be another Future Sight. It's not going to KO. And I'm going to throw an Ice Wind. Now remember, the opponent did use a shield here. So at this point, we actually are likely going to have to use a second shield in order to win this match. So if this is a Future Sight, it will KO. If it's a Moonblast, it would not. But it is a Future Sight, so we do call that. I believe Future Sight would KO there. So good shield. I'm going to throw Icy Wind at this Escavalier and bring in the Giratina. And Giratina is going to be in an amazing position now, because with the debuff to the Escavalier, these Drillons are going to be doing even less. And I should be able to commit to a farm down after throwing the Shadow Sneak here. So I'm going to take a couple of Drillons, probably 2, but I should still be pretty close to 50% health after that. So we're in a pretty good spot here. Definitely going to farm down after this second drill run comes through. And we do not get hit by a third one, so that's really good for us. Opponent's going to bring in a Giratina here in the back, so you already know what's going to happen. I'm going to throw this Dragon Claw here. And I'm okay with letting the Giratina go down here pretty much, because I know Lapras will be in such a dominant position. So I actually switch out here. There are 0 shields, so I would assume the Cresselia will come back in, but the opponent does leave. Remember, you could switch in Lapras there actually very comfortably, knowing that he does not have Grass Knot because he showed both Future Sight and Moonblast, so he can't really hurt your Lapras. So last matchup against Charizard Rider, and we got another Melmetal into Articuno lead. So again, horrible lead. You've seen how I play it out. I just sack the Articuno from the start, and I hope that they stay in, but we throw the Ice Wind here. That was a little bit weird because we usually should get to the Ice Wind, I think, about the same time as the Rock Slide, but it looked like we lagged a little bit there. So let's see if I'm going to be able to get to this second Icy Wind. I am able to get to it, okay? So I did have a few matches where I lagged and I only got to 1 and they farmed me down, which is brutal, but this is totally fine. This is pretty much what you want to happen. So this Melmetal has a bunch of energy. Gonna bring in Giratina, obviously. We're gonna soak the first Rock Slide, which is amazing for us, obviously. And ideally you'd want him to throw both, but he's going to switch out into Giratina. So I'm gonna throw 1 Dragon Claw here. This is probably a mistake. I think you should save this energy, to be honest, and bring in the Lapras here. But my thinking at the time was that if I throw the Dragon Claw, maybe I could commit to a straight farm down with Lapras. But then this guy is running Ancient Power on his Giratina, which is, I kind of like it. It's kind of spicy, but at the same time, I don't know how often it's going to come in handy for you. So I'm trying to farm down here. We are able to, so it worked out perfectly for us, to be honest. Melmetal is going to come in. I'm going to shield this up. Now, had he not had Ancient Power, this would be such a dominant position to be in, because there might be a chance that maybe I don't have to shield one of the Rock Slides. But either way, I'm going to have 2 Surfs here. I'm going to apply a lot of pressure to this Melmetal, of course, and we're going to get both shields. So this is amazing for us. And at this point, we get to a 3rd Surf, which is absolutely huge, especially if it KO'd, but it does not in this range. So we're able to farm down with Ice Shard though. Opponent brings in Swampert, so I'm going to bring in Giratina here. We are in an absolutely amazing position here. And basically the only way I could blow this match is if I let the Earthquake go through here as soon as the Hydro Cannon bait, and I go for it. So I pretty much just throw the match for no reason there. All I had to do was just shield that, even if it's a Hydro Cannon, and we would have pretty much been in a position to win there. So I threw the game, another Melmetal lead, and you can see Look, I get to the surf here, so I shield. And I have the surf ready, and the CMP, you know, it's broken. The opponent's allowed to throw 2 back-to-back. Even when you CMP, I click the surf before he threw the second one. We lose that. Brutal game mechanic, but it is what it is. We blow another Melmetal lead that we could have actually ended up coming back from and winning. So as you guys can see, Double Ice is still putting in work in the Ultra League. Even when it's a Melmetal lead, as these videos showed, I did lose those matches, but you saw both of them, I kind of threw the games. I could have won them. So Melmetal lead, although it's very difficult, if they have a team comp in the back that you could counter still, you could come back from that lead. So never give up when you see a Melmetal lead. Don't give up pretty much when you see anything, because with Articuno lead, pretty much the only bad things you're going to see are Lapras, Registeel, or Melmetal. Pretty much anything else is playable. So, you know, just keep on grinding, keep trying, study the matchups, understand the team comp, and you should be able to win with this team. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.